Today on Pappa's Projects, I want to talk to you about this 1 ton, 12,000 BTU, 120 volt mini split heat pump compared to this 4 ton heat pump, 230 volts, and the difference in running these, the cost. This one over here is going to run about 4,000 to 4,500 watts. It's going to use about 30 amps of power while it's running, and that will cycle on and off, and it'll peak to get that compressor running, which is 7 times the running current to get that thing up and running. This right here will start up gradually. It'll start out around 80 watts, go to about 100, 150, 250, 300, 450, 650, 7, 800, 850, 900, then 1,000 watts. So it'll slowly start out and raise itself up. When I run that heat pump, after running it for 10 minutes, I'm only putting out about 85 or 90 degrees hot air in the heat pump in the wintertime. But with this thing, I'm putting out about 111 degrees after about 10 minutes. And I can heat my room up much more efficiently. I can run 4 of these spaced throughout my house, 2 upstairs, 2 downstairs, for the equivalent of just running this 1 downstairs unit. So it's much more efficient to run this thing. This can cool or heat around 600 square feet, as where this can cool or heat about 1,500 square feet. But do I need to heat or cool all that at the same time? This one is nice because it is positioned downstairs in our house in part of our living room and our kitchen, and we have a second one in our living room. So 2 of these downstairs can heat or cool the house actually much more efficiently than that. This 4 ton unit will run me about 30 to 45 cents an hour to run this thing when I'm running that to heat the house. And this will cost me about 10 to 12 cents an hour to run this to heat 600 square feet. Now if I'm running this off of solar, it doesn't cost me anything. This, I'm not running off my solar, I'm running off my utility grid. In the summertime, when I'm running peak rates, it's going to be closer to 50 to 60 cents per hour to run that thing, because they raise your rates. They basically double them in the summertime out here in Arizona. And this thing I can run off of either solar, because it's 120 volts, and it only uses anywhere from 5 to 10 amps, depending on what the temperature is outside and what you're trying to cool down. The nice thing about this is it doesn't cycle on and off. It just slows down and uses, it'll go from 1,000 watts when you first fire it up to, once it gets to the desired temperature in the room, it'll drop down to 200 to 400 watts to keep that going, but it doesn't really shut off and then turn back on like a whole house heat pump does. That'll actually turn off completely and shut your air movement down. This is constantly moving air throughout your room. Now, the inside unit of this, I actually have 2 units. This is an aux mini split, 12,000 BTU, 120 volt mini split, the inside unit, and it uses about 5 to 10 amps when I'm running this. Once it gets up to total, it's around 10 amps in the morning when I'm heating or cooling in the summertime. And this over here is a premium mini split. This will use about 6 amps to 10 to 11 amps. It's the same size unit. It's 12,000 BTUs, 120 volts. But the difference between this unit is, on this unit, I can move that refrigerant to the upstairs on my second story in a room where the outside unit is on the ground. That's a difference of about 18 feet, as where this unit over here was unable to do that. I could not get this to push higher than 12 feet. So I wasn't able to use this unit for a 2-story. Some of these units just don't have enough pressure to push that refrigerant all the way up to the second floor. Now, when I bought this unit, I paid, it was about $550. The premium unit was about $650. So for that extra $100, it's pretty much worth it, because this one will cool about 500 to 600 square feet, as where that premium can actually cool 600, maybe 700 square feet. It's much more efficient. Now out here, we also have another aux unit over here, and that's what it is. AUX is the brand. This is a 18,000 BTU, 220 volt mini split. And this thing really only uses about the same amount of amps, but your voltage is twice as high. So it's it uses about 5 to 10 amps depending on what the temperature is outside and what you're trying to do on the inside, cool or heat. Now, to run these things, we're using this 5,000 watt split phase inverter. This actually is an MPP inverter, and if we look at the side here, you can see the specs on this. I'll freeze that there for a minute so you can see it. You can pause your screen to look at that a little bit more. But with this, I can run that 220 volt, 18,000 BTU, which will cool or heat about 1,000 square feet. And I can run this 12,000 BTU, 120 volt at the same time. So I can actually, with this unit, actually run that with that at the same time. Actually, in the summertime, I usually run another 1 or 2 of these units off of this, all at the same time. Now, this thing, this 18,000 BTU, cools this garage down. It's about 600 square feet. It cools it down really quick, or heats it up really quick. But this one does a really good job as well. I mean, it takes a little bit longer to get it going. But like I said, that on a normal heat pump, for a whole house heat pump, I can only get about 80, 90, 95 degrees at the most coming out of their heat after it's been running for 10 minutes. And that's pretty much the heat I'm gonna get the rest of the time it's running until it cycles off again. As where these, they'll get up to 110, 115 degrees putting that heat out. And they are very efficient. So the nice thing I like about these is I hook them up to some of them are 10 gauge and some are 12 gauge extension cords. And I can either plug this in to my GFIs that I have wired to my inverter. I have them over here. That's for the other one. That one there for that. And this one for this unit. So I can either plug that in and run that off of my solar, or I can plug this in, this 120 volt, into just a regular outlet. So if I plug it in my regular outlet, it's pretty much only going to cost me right around 8 to 10 cents an hour to run this in the winter time. In the summertime, if I were to plug this into an outlet, they double the rates. It's closer, it's actually closer to about 16, 17 cents an hour to run that. But in the summertime, when I'm trying to run my main AC, that thing's gonna cost me about 50, 60, maybe 70 cents an hour, depending on how many times it has to cycle on and off. So, this one, I really haven't figured out the cost on that one yet, but it's not going to be that much more than the 120 volt, 12,000 BTU unit. This thing for the 18,000 BTU, 230 volt unit was around $1,000 at Home Depot. And I was able to walk in the store and they had it in stock. So I was able to bring it home that day and install it. So, and it worked. You get that thing installed and 5 minutes later, you have some really nice cold air coming out of this thing. When it was 110 degrees out, I had 36 degree air coming out of this in my garage. It cooled the garage down pretty quick. And it's nice to have one of these little temperature guns. See if I can show you that there. See, it tells you the temperature. Nice to have one of those. They're about 15, 20 bucks at Home Depot or Lowe's. You can get some, either one of them. You know, if you're just trying to save money on your electric bill, installing one of these heat pumps in one of the rooms that you're using a lot when you're not using your whole house, or you're only using mostly your downstairs during the day, why heat your upstairs during the winter or cool it in the summertime if you're really not using it? And they are really efficient. You can also, with these, the nice thing about these is on these inverters, you can run these. I actually have, rather than mine hardwired, I have these wired up to charge off the grid, where I can just plug these in to a grid outlet right here, or I have one right over here. I can just plug those in, and those, after the sun goes down and my battery bank has been depleted, whatever parameters I set on my inverter, say it gets down to 24 volts, if I have these plugged in, or you can hardwire them in, either way. If I have those plugged in, it'll automatically switch over from the batteries to where the grid starts charging the batteries and running my mini splits, or whatever I have plugged into these outlets, GFI outlets. It will just start continuously running those without stopping it or anything. It simultaneously just switches over when the batteries go low. So it'll keep running your appliances, your mini splits, and charge your battery at the same time. When it gets to a predetermined set point that you set on this, say you set it at 27.5, that it'll charge the batteries up to 27, or for this one, it's actually a 48 volt system. So on this one, it might charge it up to 54 or 56 volts. And then as soon as it reaches that, the grid power will shut off, and then it'll slowly start depleting your battery bank until it gets down to that predetermined amount. Actually, on this one, I believe I have it set at 46. So when it gets down to 46 on a 48 volt system, the grid power will switch back over on the inside of the inverter. It'll start charging the batteries and running the appliances again. And the appliances continue to keep working. It just switches over in a matter of milliseconds. So it doesn't interrupt the power going to these units. That is a nice feature on this. So, you know, or if I want to just turn one of these on if I want to come out and work in the garage in the middle of the winter or in the middle of the summer and my battery bank is low. I can just plug that, plug this in, or I could actually plug the 120 volt one. I can actually plug into a wall unit grid, and I could actually run that. All of my mini splits are set up that way so that I can run that. And then when I do that, I put on there, I don't know, it's upside down, but it says living room on this one. And I have different ones labeled for different ones. So I can do either one. I can continue running it on my inverter, or if my inverter, I don't want to run my inverter, I can just plug it right into the wall. Now, the nice thing I said, once you get this thing up to, say I set it at 70 degrees and it's 68 degrees, it's going to run about 1,000. This one, this 12,000 BTU, 120 volt, it's going to run around 1,000 watts or a kilowatt per hour until it gets to that. Then when it gets to that temperature of 70 degrees, the motor will slow down and it'll drop down to maybe 300-400 watts per hour until it senses that the temperature's dropped, and then it'll kick back on again. But it never really shuts off all the way like your whole house air conditioner heat pump does. We have heat pumps out here in the Southwest. So, you know, running this thing overnight has averaged about 6 to 8 cents per hour to run. But if I run my whole house heat pump, like a 3.5, I have a 3.5 ton and a 4 ton. If I run those overnight in the winter time, where it's costing me 6 or 8 cents to run one mini split, it's costing me 30, 40 cents for that same hour to run that, because it's covering the whole upstairs while we sleep. So if we're just in one room and the whole house temperature is 64 or 66 degrees and we want it at 70, we can just run that mini split, thus saving ourselves all that money every hour. So in the morning, when we get up, I tend to turn on the mini splits and plug it into utility grid, and it's costing me about 10 cents an hour to run that. And like I said, the difference is I'm putting out, after 10 minutes, I'm putting out about 110, 115 degree air on these mini splits, as where with my main whole house heat pumps, the 3.5 ton or 4 ton, I'm getting up to 85 or 90 degrees. And the outside units are both outside, but the little ones, these 12,000 BTUs, are much more efficient than those 3.5 or 4 tons. They can put out 20, 25 degree hotter air. So that means you're gonna heat your room up that much quicker. And in the summertime, those main air conditioners will be putting out about 48 degrees, as where these mini splits can put out about 32 to 38 degrees. They really put out some cold air, and they can cool a room down very quickly. In my house, I have two of these in my garage for 600 square feet. That's equivalent to a 3-ton air conditioner. That's for like a 1,500 square foot house. So I can get my garage down to about close to 60 degrees in the summertime if I want to. You know, I put them in there basically because I wanted to try out the 2 different ones. So I really only need the 18,000 one out here. That's really enough. I can move this other one somewhere else in the house if I wanted to. But I can't put it upstairs because these aux units will not go up to the 2nd floor. I just can't get it to do it. I do have one where I have the outside unit in my attic, and then I have this. So it's only a difference of about 4 or 5 feet between my inside unit and the outside unit in the attic. And I have no problem with that, but it just can't seem to climb over 12 feet height from the outside unit to the inside unit. So I hope this helps you, and I hope you have a little better understanding. These units are great to cut your electricity cost during the day, where you can use the solar power to completely run this 100%. And in the wintertime, when the sun comes up at 7 o'clock, by 8:30, I'm able to fire up one of my air conditioners. 8:30, I can fire up a second one. 9 o'clock, I can fire a third. And by 10 o'clock, I can get a fourth 12,000 BTU, 120 volt mini split going, and have all four of them running by 10 o'clock in the morning. So, and that just keeps my house heated all day long until about 4 or 5 o'clock. And then the sun goes down at 6 out here. And house pretty much stays warm the whole night without running anything. Because I can get up to about 70, 72 degrees upstairs and downstairs with these mini splits. And then by the time the morning hits, it's about 66 degrees upstairs and downstairs, with it being around 34 to 38 degrees outside by the morning. So they do really work well. And once they get the place cooled down or heated up, they'll last for a couple hours before you need to use a main one. But like I said, if I wanted to, I could just leave one of these plugged in and run them overnight. And on one of these 12,000 BTU, 120 volts, is probably going to cost me anywhere, I don't know, 6 to 10 cents an hour to run that. So they're really efficient. Anyways, I hope this has helped you today. And I hope you like this. If you do, please subscribe. And we're going to be doing more and more videos on how we installed these things and how we hooked up the inverters and a bunch of different things. A little bonus tip here today. We were able to get a hold of a brand new $1,300 Electrolux dryer. Brand new, never used. I picked it up for $105. It was written on top, trash, unrepairable. And I brought it home, and within a half an hour, the door wouldn't close on this thing, and they didn't want to fix it, send it back to be fixed, so they just put it out there. And I noticed that the white face of this right here and right here was pushed in, so the door wouldn't close. So within a half hour, I had taken this apart, pounded it out, put the door back on, put the front panel on, put the top on, and was able to see that the door would stay closed. And when I turned the power on, it locked the door closed. Now it's a month and a half later, and we're actually running this completely off of solar. I've got a load of wash in here, this washing machine, and we're completely running it off of solar, off of this unit right over here. And we're having no problems with that at all. It's able to run it, and I'm actually going to switch some power over here for a freezer. The unit here, when this thing starts spinning at 1200 RPMs towards the end of the load, it will go up to 1300 watts of power that this thing uses. But boy, when this laundry comes out, it is almost so dry because it's spun out most of the water. So right there, I just switched over the plug to a different one, and on this one it has a memory for interruption. So when I unplugged the power for this, I plugged it over in another one, and it actually changed over to continue where the load left off. And got a very nice washer for $105 out the door. Anyways, we buy a lot of stuff like that where they say it's trash, but it's brand new, and we're able to fix the things and be able to use them. And what we're doing is we're running a 7 cubic foot chest freezer, a 24 cubic refrigerator, this washer, this 5 cubic freezer, and we run our coffee maker off of it, and we run a microwave off of this. We can even run our mixer off of that. We'll be making some keto pizza later and grinding up some mozzarella cheese for that. But plenty of power to go around. So a year and a half ago, we didn't know anything about solar or mini splits, and we were able to do all this DIY, off-grid, and we've had no problems with this stuff working. It's very reliable. Right now I've only tried out MPP solar inverters, and I have 3 different types. I have this split phase where I can run single phase, dual phase, or 3-phase. I have this single phase. This is 6,500 watts. And then we have these 2,400 watt, 24 volt DC inverters, and we have 4 of those parallel together. These are 48 volt systems on both of these. Each one of these has to have a minimum of 4 12 volt batteries wired up so that you can use that. This one is actually considered batteryless, but you really can't run that much unless you have all 24 panels that I have completely in the sun. Then I can pretty much run a mini split off of that with no battery bank. But it says batteryless, and it is UL listed. So I'm still working on that one, testing stuff out on that. Anyways, like I said before, if you like this video, please check like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. And I hope you have a wonderful and very blessed day. See you again. Bye.